Here we are in Kitchener-Waterloo. My name's Larry from Monumental Display. We are going to check out what I call around the corner advertising on Monumental Displays. First, what we're going to look at is downtown retail store type operations. To demonstrate how signage works, first off, you can see all the signage on the side of the street here and how well it works. What a lot of people do not know is that the vast majority of business that a business gets is actually from the sign on the front of the building. Not word of mouth, not all their advertising in radio, TV, newspaper, flyers, magazines, whatever you consider to be good advertising, and they are good advertising. But the sign in front of a business is the singular most critical form of advertising any business has. And the amazing part about it is most retail business people, and for that matter, most marketing experts, most professors of marketing are not aware of this. I've done surveys and discovered that it is a vast ignorance in the world about how well signs work. A sign can make or break a business, as you can see here. Now, I did a survey for over 20 years with my retail customers at my sign shop. And on a busy corner in a busy city, on probably one of the most main streets. And I surveyed my customers. Now, it's not an official survey because it's not done in a diversified way. But with my clients that would do the survey, for 20 years, I surveyed them and asked them, could you name 20 businesses in a row, the proper full name, not a giant conglomerate or a retail store or a chain store like that, like McDonald's and Burger Kings and Shoppers Drug Marts and Walmarts were excluded. But the average retailer, which is 98.2% of all businesses, are the small guy. And I asked, could you name 20 businesses in a row on a street you travel down most every day, or your most traveled retail downtown type store location? At the beginning of the survey, at the beginning of the 20 years, the average person could remember 8 of them. And then over time, it slowly dropped to 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. For the last 3 years of my survey, which was done approximately 10 or 11 years, ended 10 or 11 years ago, the average person could only remember 1 business name out of 20. Now, my favorite question is, what does that mean? It means that information overload has caused a reduction, a massive reduction in retail profitability. Now, on the other hand, over that same period of time and over the last few years, the quality of signs has increased dramatically. We used to have just plastic signs, and some of them lit up, some of them didn't light up, or they're wood signs, and they were pretty crappy looking. But now, as you can see right in front of here, the Good Life Fitness in the Market Square, those signs are 3-dimensional, and it was very difficult for people, retailers, to realize that having a 3-dimensional sign is dramatically better and makes it look more professional. Now, when I had my sign business right here in this city, just up the street, a few doors down, it was really hard to sell signs like the ones you're seeing right here. But now it's becoming more commonplace, and those businesses automatically do better. Surprisingly, they don't even understand why. They just like it better and have the money up front to pay for it, because those kinds of signs cost quite often 5, 6, 7 times as much money as a regular sign. And but what people don't know is, if you can't remember the name of the black and white barber shop here, or the New City supermarket, or what's next here, Fresh Ground, which is obviously a coffee shop, I think. No, it's a working center. And now the interesting thing is, the average person only looks at a sign for less than a split second. It's just crazy. And therefore, they don't remember things. Now, on the front page of the Calgary Herald in 1980, there was an article that took the whole page, plus a little bit more if I remember correctly, and it stated, information overload, big giant size letters. Now, the part that was particularly unique was, inside the article, it said that the average household saw 5,462 ads, commercials, flyers per day, the average household. That's a lot. Now that's information overload. Now that was back in 1980. Folks, here we are in a new millennium, and I'm sure that the average household sees 10 times that number. I can't get the exact number conclusively, but it's very, very high. Information overload. Matter of fact, the number one function of the brain, according to a psychological magazine that I read once, said that our brain spends most of its time processing things about the body, which is understandable. But what was amazing was the second thing that the brain does more than anything else is it is just trying to weed out all the information from all that we see around us. We're driving down the road, we see people walking, we see cars in front of us, we see signs and stuff like that. But we're just trying to concentrate. Have you ever seen a horse and buggy, and the horses have blinders on either side to make sure that they don't get distracted? Well, that's the way we are. We're so distracted. We are so inundated with information overload. Information overload is so compelling that it causes accidents sometimes. Information overload is so compelling that just on this little survey, try to name some of the businesses that I just drove by that you saw on this display. I venture to say you cannot name 10 of them. Why? Information overload. It is such a big problem, such a catastrophe for the average retail business, that 87% of all retail businesses fail within just a few short years. That is unbelievable. Like, who would have thought that? And it's a big problem for them and our economy. It's a problem for our downtowns. That's why you see so many crappy looking retail businesses. That's why inner cities oftentimes look so bad and so pathetic that you wouldn't want to open a business down there because your neighbors are all so bad. Now, sure, communities and municipalities and cities are trying to fix this problem. They have all kinds of brainiac ideas. But here is the best idea of all: the Monumental Display. It empowers a business to combine art and advertising. A business like this King's Mart here, he could have, if we set up our monumental displays on a building nearby, let's say this old house here that's all boarded up, it looks pretty bad. Like, that's pathetic. Like, come on, folks. That is bad. Now, that whole side of the wall could be turned into a giant-sized piece of art where we can have a display and we can advertise the orthodontics place right next door here. We can advertise that variety store back there. We can advertise Tim Hortons that is just coming up here, and then people can think, oh, Tim Hortons is just ahead. Whereas right now, you cannot read the sign for Tim Hortons up the street here very well. Like, some might be able to identify it because their branding is good. However, we need a fix. There's a really big problem out there for retailers. People spend sometimes their entire inheritance setting up a business only to find it fails in a short period of time. And it's difficult. It's a tough fight to get into the retail world. It's very profitable if you do it well. But a good portion of them, 87%, fail. Monumental Display has the fix for that. We've developed a concept where we can wrap a whole building with a video promotional message center that other people in the neighborhood, let's say this auto spot here, let's say we bought that building, we put a giant size artistic display, and every 2 or 3 seconds it advertised another business, like Tim Hortons, that's right here. And I'm just going to show you a few more here, and we'll go back the other direction. But the most retail spots look pretty pathetic, look pretty bad. Vibe Development, what is that? Like, the building looks terrible. Like, it is almost disgusting that things can look so bad. So as we drive down a street like this, you can see the conundrum that is out there for the retailers. Now, my hat's off to the entrepreneurs, the startup people that open up a business. Like, it's just amazing, the tenacity and the ability of some of these people that against all odds, they are still successful in many cases. Now, if you've ever been in retail, it can be a pretty boring business if business is not good. And unfortunately, most of them do not do good. But 98.2% of all businesses are the small guy. The 1.8%, the internationals, the conglomerates, the franchises, you know, the Tim Hortons, the Pioneer restaurants, BMO banks, and the Snack Express, and all these other kinds of businesses. They've got a good business model. They do well. But what they don't know is, in actual fact, the signs are the number one thing to bring in business. They think it's because all their advertising. No, that's not it. It helps. That's wonderful. But it does not bring in all the business. The sign does. And a franchise does predominantly really well because they have many signs that are repeatedly putting up their business. Now, here's a little quiz for you. Now, I made this up a while back now. It's more for fun than anything else, but it does have a very powerful message that I'm about to put across. Here is a question. What is the most important thing in advertising? Repetition, color, image, style, or repetition? Let me repeat the question so you're clear. What is the most important thing in advertising? Repetition, color, image, style, or repetition? Well, repetition is your answer, right? Isn't that amazing? It really isn't the right answer, but it is ridiculously important because people don't even remember the name of the company most of the time. Like, here's a business right here called Most Wanted Cars. It is a really cool name for a business. Like, whoever thought this up is a brilliant person, I have to tell you. But most people won't remember it. They really don't. Like Michelin, you've heard of that. Active Green and Ross, you've heard of that if you live in Ontario. But Fred Astaire's dance studio, unless you're really interested in dancing a lot, you don't even know that. Pioneer, you know, because they're all over the country and it's a franchise. And their branding as well is done well, mostly because of signs. They think it's because of everything else. No, it's not. It's actually the signs that did it for them. So you take a little business like the one just across the street here. At this angle, I'm stopped at a corner, and they're right on the corner. You'd think you'd be able to see it well. Well, most of the people drive by, don't even notice it. Just a small fraction of the people are even aware of the fact that there is a business there called the Exotic Skin Shop. And, well, to be honest with you, I still don't even know what that is. And they're obviously doing okay. They're there. But the Exotic Skin Shop, I can't even read the sign from here, barely at all, only because I'm really staring at it. Can I even make out what it is? But as we drive a little bit closer, you can see the Exotic Skin Shop. It's a body art and piercing. Well, I didn't even know that until I read that part. And folks, the retail, here's the guy's sign's completely out. Family Restaurant King. Well, I don't think I'd even want to go in that place. It looks so bad. Now, Tim Hortons, their branding is good. That's good. They're doing well. Matter of fact, they're hiring. And billboard signs are great. Like, look at this. Borrow up to $15,000 fast. Pattison billboards. People will spend a few $1,000s a month to advertise on there. Folks, you don't need to spend that much. Monumental Display has the solution, and we need people like you to help us get this going off the ground. Now, Ray of Hope, what is that? I don't know what that is. It's probably some Christian organization, accessibility and all that kind of stuff. Cash Co loans, you know, that's easy to figure out. It's actually relatively good signage. And personal injury lawyers, Morris Car Wash down the street, Irvin Accounting. Here's a sign that's all washed out. You can't even tell what it is. It's a car wash. And people think you have to build a big brand new structure, which is a great idea, but it costs a lot of money. And as we get up further here, you're going to see more and more retail operations. Here's another billboard. Seriously, chicken. McDonald's. Well, I don't even know where there is a McDonald's. Like, I used to live here, but I don't even know where a McDonald's is nearby here. Like, I know where one is in Waterloo, way far away. But, you know, like they should say around the corner or something like that, but I don't think there is one here. So retail is a really big problem for anybody. Now here's K&C Optical. Folks, I couldn't even tell that said optical until I stopped here and read it. Like it's an okay logo, but it's too small. And it's positioned well, but it's too small. And like the other signs up the street here, I can't even read what the signs are at all from here. And I'm only 100 yards away. That's pretty pathetic. Our signage and Monumental Displays can be read on a very sharp angle, actually at a 90-degree angle easily. And here's a bunch of stores in the mall here. Can't even read what they are. People who are walking by don't even know it exists. Ayers Pizza and Wings. Oh my goodness. Hong Kong Plaza. That tells you that's not too bad, but still, here's a whole wall, empty space. We can turn that into a Monumental Display. Here's a whole storefront. I can't even tell what is on this. Oh, it's space for lease. Okay. That should be turned into a Monumental Display easily. The side of this building could be turned into a Monumental Display. Here's the Waterloo Regional Record newspaper. And as you know, newspapers have been in a decline for over 30 years. Matter of fact, according to a journalist friend of mine that managed 5 newspapers, he said, and he told me this a few years ago, that they have dropped in readership 10 to 20% per year for 25 years in a row, and 10 to 20% in revenue as well. Now look at all these places here. I can't even read what some of these store names are. Like, the signage is actually pathetic. The fact that they survive is mind-boggling. Corner Dollarama, they've been very successful. Why? Their signs are awesome. They're great. It could be a little bit better, but they're great. They, if you can get your message across in less than a second, you're a winner. Like banks do that, 20/20 vision. Now that's a really good sign, actually, to be honest with you. It should be spread out a little bit more and more readable, have more real estate across the front. And but as we go down here, like I'm parked, you can't see it here now, but it was Rainbow Caribbean Cuisine. That's pretty good, but it's too small. Monumentalization, something big is better. Big is always better when it comes to signs. Now, right across the street here on the other side, I did a survey on this store 32 years ago, and they thought everybody was aware of it. Unfortunately, you couldn't see it in the video here, but on the one before you can. It was actually a gift shop. I sat out in front of that gift shop for hours, and I surveyed 100 people, and I asked them, do you know where there's a gift shop? Only 2 out of 100 knew where there's a gift shop, and it was right on the same corner. Isn't that bizarre? That taught me a big lesson. Familiarity breeds contempt. Like, once I told them, oh, it's right there, then they laughed and joked, of course. But people do not know what is working for them. And matter of fact, most promotional advertising hardly works for them at all. Their sign works the best, but the signs are generally pathetic. Now, Manulife, they got it down pat here. Look at the size of that sign. Like, that is big. They are successful. Why are they successful? Well, that's one really good reason, and they're not even in retail. Isn't that amazing? Quick sandwiches here. Signs too small. Here's a restaurant on the corner on the other side here. It's called Slices. It's been there for over 32 years. I remember the day it went up, actually. And signage is critically important. But you only have one location if you're a retailer. When you put up one sign, bada boom, bada bing, you're done. And that's great, but you're limited to that. But imagine if on this building, Ziggy's, that we just drove by here, all that empty space, imagine if we had that whole thing, a beautiful giant size picture, and we had video advertising that's massive in size, that you could advertise the condo culture here, you could advertise that rainbow restaurant back there, and it's only 100 yards away. And if you could spend just a few dollars a month, and you're getting thousands of messages, video messages, giant size, do you think that would help? You bet it would. Now look at this building here. What we want to do is turn this into a giant size piece of art, buildings like this. And a large portion of it is video advertising. You can see right through it like clear glass predominantly. And with our Monumental Display technology. And here we got a powerful advertising tool. I do not even know. I've been here many, many times, and I still have not figured out what is in that building. Is it a condo? Is it a retail store? I don't even know. And here's the weird part about it. I was at Communitech just a block away a while back, and I asked people what it was. Well, I only asked about 5 people, but guess what? Not a single one of them that works there knew what is in that giant sized building there. Like, how dumb is that? Like, seriously. Now, some of the businesses are really smart, like these cash money guys. They always get pretty good locations. Their signs are simple. They're easy to understand. You got the whole message in a nanosecond. Like, I mean, it's just crazy. And here's a nightclub called The District. Their lettering is nice, but it's a little hard to read. The mortgage store, like, I mean, seriously, what's going on there? That looks really bad. And actually, I know the lady that owns it. And but people just don't clue in to what works and what doesn't work. And most people's marketing and advertising not only does not work, it is pathetic. Absolutely, grossly pathetic. And they don't even know it because they're surviving. They're getting by. So, like, let me ask you this question. Would you rather have make $100 a day or $10,000 a day? That's the difference. Like, seriously. Like, here's a big building right here on the right, as you can see there. You can't tell what's in there. I can't read it. There's a sign there, but I can't tell what that is at all. Like, I mean, why would they even bother being in business? You can't tell. Like, I mean, they got to work like crazy just to create a little bit of business. It's bad. Oh, it's the Grand River. Oh, it's the hospital, Grand River Hospital. What's it doing on that side? Here's CTV. Great logo. Building looks scrappy. And of course, they got their own advertising. Now, here we are in Waterloo, coming into Waterloo, and it's booming like crazy. And it's got money. There's a lot of very inventive people. But to be honest with you, now here you're going to see a little bit better advertising because they're a little smarter this side of town for some reason. And, oh, actually, this is, my friend just looked at this building here. I'm going to turn around and look at that building there, because that is a phenomenally good building for Monumental Display. Stuart just downloaded the pictures of the building and everything and showed it. Now, here's a place, Vision Travel. And that's a little bit better. The word Vision Travel should be much bigger to work really well. But just by looking at this, I can tell you these guys are doing pretty good. I'm going to go around the block here. And you look at all these small businesses, their little sign out front, and they're surviving. Like, what amazes me is that these businesses can survive and do so well in spite of doing so many things wrong. Now, maybe they're doing other things that I don't know about for promotional advertising, referrals from doctors, and all this kind of stuff. That can help them a lot. But now I'm going to turn here, and we're going to look at this building that Stuart showed me in a bit. If I, well, maybe there's no turn off to it. But at the end of the street here, we'll find out. Now, of course, in a residential area like this, there's no signage at all. Now, we're going to turn right here. We're going to go by the hospital. I'm going to go up the street and turn around and look straight on at this building because it comes out on the corner there. Now, here's the hospital. Now, if it wasn't for the big H, you wouldn't even know that's a hospital. Signs are ridiculously important. Now, my younger brother was born here, so I know it quite well. This is the Grand River Hospital. See, I didn't even know it's called the Grand River Hospital until I read the sign. Okay, now we're going to go up here. Maybe I can't look at this. Unfortunately, I'm going to turn this picture. This is the plaza that we're about to look at here. And it's all medical type stuff. There's a lawyer, an accountant, and other types of things in here. But that's a great spot because there's a street that comes straight up to it. And it would be an amazing property for marketing.